Hello, I'm Slim Stevens, and these are my secrets of happiness. I heard that a wise philosopher once said, "Be gentle to everyone you meet. Everyone is on a scary, dangerous journey." One spring evening, when I was 27, I drove home to the house I lived in. I lived there with my 26-year-old wife, who tragically died a few short years later, and our little girl. I couldn't believe my eyes. I opened the car door. Normally I would hear crickets and the soft blowing of the wind way up in the trees, but tonight I couldn't hear those sounds. Tonight there was cacophony. Birds were landing on our mailbox and screaming and circling and screeching and landing and screaming and circling and landing. Inside my head there was screeching too, because the bushes were gone, the hedge was gone, the plants were gone. Only dirt was left around our house. Dirt and stumps. The house stood naked like the day it was born. I knew in a second that my wife had hired someone to tear everything out of the ground. Dirt and stumps. I knew that she had probably hired some guys from a passing landscaping truck to cut the living things down and drag them away. The stumps were all that was left, cut flush to the ground. The hedge I had trimmed so many times was gone. The bushes I had planted and watered were gone. And that was all that was left of the relationship. Dirt and stumps. I imagined that she had overpaid the gardeners, not realizing that the only hard thing about such endeavors is the removal of the stumps. So I had some contempt to go with my anger and sadness. I could leave too. I wouldn't even have to flag down a truck. I could just drive away, say goodbye to the dirt and the stumps, inside and out. And what of the little one who was inside the now naked house with my wife? At least I knew she was physically safe, which was more than these screeching birds could say about their young. They were zipping up to the roof, then dive-bombing back to the mailbox or to the small nearby tree, screeching. Where were their nests? Where were their eggs? Where were their little ones? I felt alone, attacked, assaulted. I imagined that the landscapers might come next for my soul, to tear out what I had planted and watered and nurtured. Or had they been there already? I was unhappy. I called my friend Kurt. I needed an anti-unhappiness device. And I had one. Because I knew Secret One. Although I didn't call it that. It is: take turns talking. 3 minutes each. I call it 3 and 3. That's it. I learned it from an older woman I like to call sister, and a kid that used to win cross-country races during the half times of my football games. Find a person you trust and ask him or her to take turns talking with you for 3-minute intervals. Or 5. Talk about whatever you want. Try to talk about your feelings, what is inside you. Don't just respond to what the other person has said. If you're really brave and advanced, like me, you won't have any idea what you will say. You will talk unedited, unscripted, and unplanned. Not like me on this video where I wrote it all down. I have met some interesting strangers inside of myself that way. Strangers that I like. I've also met some mean strangers inside of myself that had been hiding, and I was glad to get them out where they could be seen and heard. If I want to comment on the other person's material, I've learned to ask something like, "Do you mind if I say something about what you said?" But I've learned that I'm doing the other person the biggest favor by not saying anything about their material. I have a watch with a timer that beeps to tell us when to switch talkers. That way we don't feel interrupted by the other person. Peace comes from being heard and from hearing another person. I know my time is there for me, and thus I can go deeper into myself and discover things. I don't have to worry about being polite or taking too much time or being selfish by talking about myself. We each have our own time. I can say, "Can we take turns talking?" No one has ever declined until I met you. Just kidding. Secret 2. Kurt, can we take turns talking? Good. Okay, thanks. I'll go first. You won't believe where I am. I hate her. Do you hear the birds screeching? Do you know why they are screeching? Because Eve tore out all the plants and bushes and hedges from in front of our house, including the ones I had planted, the bushes I had watered for years. The birds are screeching because she took away their homes, their cover, their nests. And she phoned me earlier today, screaming while I was at work, so angry, so unhappy. What is going to happen to this marriage? How can she act so violent? Why would she try to destroy our nest? Why does she insult me all the time? Why does she think I don't respect her? Why does she insult the members of her own family she grew up with? Why doesn't she have the confidence to find something she loves to do in life? Why doesn't she want a happy home for our child? Am I supposed to walk into that house now? This reminds me of the time when I was in 3rd grade that my mother was raging at my father and throwing his manuscript papers out of the 3rd floor window and screaming at him. I felt so powerless, so ashamed, and so scared. Beep, beep. Okay, the timer went off. Your turn. And then Kurt talked for 3 minutes. I don't remember what he talked about, but hearing him talk about what was going on in his life was a great relief, a change of scenery, a welcome one, unlike the one I stared at while sitting in my car. Lucky for me, unlike many males, I seem to have known Secret 2 ever since I was little. It came pre-installed. It is, talk about the stuff that hurts. Talk about the bad stuff. Talk about the scary stuff, like I did to Kurt. Talk about the worst part. Talk about it until you are sick of talking about it, and then talk about it some more. Talk about it spontaneously, unedited, with free association, but not to the one who hurt you. When you talk to that person about the bad stuff, be more careful. People used to think that it made things worse to talk about scary things, but the opposite is true. You can look that up. You are giving a great gift when you get a friend to talk about the bad stuff. Talking about the stuff that hurts transforms it. That is what I was doing with Kurt, talking as hard and fast as I could, trying not to smother in my sadness and feeling of desperation, finding friendship and the ability to absorb hurt through my connection with him. Secret 3. I was always practical, or I thought I was. That evening, listening to the birds, I knew that I wasn't ready to go into the house. I knew I had to process my anger while I was out of her presence, although I doubt if I would have used the lingo process then. But I knew that getting hot-headed and angry with her wouldn't help anything. So as my pausing in front of the house illustrated, I was basically using what I now call Secret 3, which is triage a challenging encounter. In the emergency room, the reception people do triage, meaning they first take care of the person most at risk. In a troubling encounter with another person, I do triage. When a person is coming to me with some kind of need or grievance, I ask myself right away, can I help this person right now, or do I have to take care of myself? If the answer is I have to take care of myself, then I disengage. I say something like, I'm sorry, but I can't talk with you about this now, but I hope to do it soon. And I get away. Some people call this using the emergency exit. I leave fast before I say something I will regret, and I take care of myself. Walk around the block, talk to a different person, do something to clear my mind. This is why I was sitting in my car talking to Kurt, although I had never heard the word triage then. I was talking to Kurt as I sat stunned in my car instead of bursting into the house, shrieking angrily, "What have you done?" Secret 4. Listening to the birds screeching, I was devastated. I did not say, I don't care, although I wanted to say it. I did care. I hated her, but I felt very guilty about that. I hated her for what she had done to the birds, for destroying the symbol of what I had cared about, for destroying the living things that were the symbol of my caring for her. I was as furious as the screeching birds, and I felt very bad for hating her. I had no knowledge of the next secret. Secret 4. There are no bad feelings. Negative feelings are not bad for you if you let yourself feel them fully. I am not saying act on them fully. I am saying feel them fully. I can have feelings of rage, fury, despair, self-loathing, violence, shame, guilt, parent hunger, parent fury, or revenge. I just don't act on them. I don't zap myself for having these feelings. I praise myself for locating them and expressing them in a safe environment. When I own my feelings, when I admit that I have them, they are less likely to own me. Admitting anger makes it less likely to control me. Letting the feeling live on the inside makes it less likely to cause damage on the out. I will be less likely to snap and do something I don't want to do. So when I told Kurt I hate her, I was easing the hate and the hurt. I didn't have to feel guilty for hating, but I did. Connected to this is the idea of, what does this remind me of? This bad feeling I am having now, what does it remind me of from the feelings of the past? Identify that old feeling and talk about it and process it, and miraculously it will transform the bad feeling you are having now. This is what I did a tiny bit when I told Kurt about being so ashamed and scared when I was a little boy watching my mother throw my dad's papers out the window. If I had talked about that more with Kurt right then, I bet it would have helped ease the pain I was feeling about the yard being torn up. Also connected to this idea is the idea that there are always feelings. Feelings are like weather. They are always there. When I say I feel nothing, what it really means is I don't know what I'm feeling. If I hated her, I must not have loved her. Duh. If it's green, it's not red. If it's a boy, it's not a girl. If it's up, it's not down. If I hate you, I cannot love you. But I did hate her and love her. I hated some of the things she did, but I still loved her for giving us an angel of a daughter, and for persevering in spite of a rough childhood, and for taking such great care of our daughter, and for being such a gentle parent, and for being infinitely patient with our daughter, and for never raging at our daughter, and for talking to our daughter even when she was just a tiny smiling baby, and for being brave enough to take the plunge of motherhood, and for stopping the cycle of anger in her family. I would have been in much better shape if I had known the next secret. Secret 5. I have conflicting feelings, and it is normal. I have to remind myself of this all the time. I have to say to myself, let yourself have conflicting feelings. Do not beat yourself up. It is natural to hate someone and to love them at the same time. It is natural to want to eat chocolate and to want not to eat chocolate. It is natural to want to keep living with someone and to want not to keep living with someone. It is natural to be mad at your parent and to love your parent. It is natural to be disappointed with your child and be proud of your child. Secret 6. I know she doesn't believe in therapy, and I know she's feuding with her family, and I know she had a rough childhood, but I want... Stop, said my friend Joe firmly with annoyance. You want. You want. And then he paused. I want not to have Crohn's disease. Then we sat in silence, and the point he was making sank in. He was trying to tell me that I couldn't control her or what she was going to do. I might want lots of bushes and family reunions and family dinners and loving family get-togethers with all the in-laws, but I was just one person on one side of the table. I was assuming that I was supposed to try to make the entire world conform to my wishes. Joe knew this was useless and not good for me. I thought I should be controlling the whole show and steering it to what I thought was a good result. But I am just a dot on a dot on a dot on a dot on a dot in the huge universe. Realizing this makes me more powerful, not less. I was starting to learn what I now call Secret 6. I am not God. I am one of God's children. Secret 7. When I did get together with Eve, after talking with Kurt, I ignored the landscaping issue. I did not react to it. As far as Eve was concerned, I kept my feelings bottled up. I had done my 3 and 3, I had done my triage, and was able to come home and be cheerful with our toddler. I assumed that if I said how I felt, it could be dangerous. I didn't know Secret 7. I can be angry without losing control. This lesson came late in life for me. It was definitely not pre-installed and was not there for the shrub disaster. In the family I grew up in, when someone got angry, there was shouting, pain, remorse. When my mother got angry, she lost control. It was only as an adult that I learned to get furious and to say, I am furious, and to feel myself being furious without losing control, and without getting into the gutter with my attacker, and without saying hurtful things back to the other person. You're not a man at all, Eve said to me one day. You are just a con man. What kind of a man do you think you are? You are pathetic. You don't love our child. You just play with her for your own sick amusement. Unfortunately, I had heard these words before, but I never before had given the response that I gave now. You are making me furious, I said. That's what I said. That's all I said. And that's all I did. I couldn't believe it. I felt great. I had allowed myself to get furious, to own it to myself and to her, but I hadn't torn my shirt, or grimaced, or shouted, or returned insult for insult. I had reached a new level. If the leader of the group therapy sessions I had been attending had been with me right then, I would have high-fived him, because he had given me a great gift, or he might have high-fived me for learning so well. Okay, your wife seems to despise you. I didn't realize then that she probably hated and loved me at the same time. She insults your family. She refuses to speak with them. She insults you and has no affection for you. Time to go to the monastery, right? Or time to find a lover who cares, one to whom I can lament the cliched refrain of, my wife doesn't understand me. Forget this family gig, right? Leave the woman. I can't stand for this. But I didn't leave, and I did stand for it. If I had been wired differently, I might have walked right out of my daughter's life. In a famous Doonesbury cartoon, a man walks into the bathroom where his wife is giving their little boy a bath and says, "Can I help?" "How could you ask that?" she retorts. "How could you simply imply that it is my job and maybe you could be of some kind of assistance?" "Okay, sorry. Let me try again. Can I co-nurture?" "No," she replies. "You always get the bathroom floor wet." This captures a fact of life. Many women want to exclude the father and fantasize a divine duality with the child. Can you blame them after what they went through to bring the child here? They imagine that the child will be better off without the father around, disrupting things. Their child will be better off without this person who comes from a different clan, where holidays are celebrated in a different way, electric lights are always turned off, they go to a different church, family members hug each other, people save money instead of spending it. These women are often feeling overwhelmed, even as they are aware of their own special relationship with the child. Frequently, they are just kicking the shins of the father because of how burdened they feel. They don't really want him to leave. In fact, they need his help, but they attack because they are feeling overwhelmed. It takes a deep and kind and wise man to not take this personally, to not feel excluded, to stay on the reservation patiently. It is a tragedy that so many men let themselves get excluded. A man who leaves the woman frequently ends up being maneuvered out of his children's lives too. The man by the bathtub, he probably stalks out of the bathroom and tries to find someone who just might appreciate him a little bit. If only he had known the next secret. Secret 8. The perfect is the enemy of the good. Don't reject something because it isn't perfect. Don't reject a project that you're working on because it isn't perfect. It is often good enough. Holding out for the perfect frequently gets you nothing. The musicians say, good is good enough. I take this to mean that you don't have to do something metaphysical, something beyond normal, something extraterrestrial. Athletes call this playing within yourself. You still have a beautiful child. You are still married to a good woman, one who wants to be a good mother and a good person. If you are starving, would you walk out of a restaurant because the toast is burned, even though the waffles are scrumptious? Not the best analogy, but you get the point. Secret 9. In my case, it was easier for me to stay because being with my toddler made me feel better than I ever had felt before, and I would have let the burnt toast pile up to the ceiling without ever leaving the restaurant. I want a divorce. What do you think about that? Eve was staring at me at the playground as she said this. Our toddler, now 3.5, was playing on the swings across from us. I don't even think you tried, I blurted back. When I said that, I was probably conjuring up some early stage of the thought that the perfect is the enemy of the good, but I didn't express it very well. At best, my answer probably sounded like the preachiness of the old sayings, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, or life isn't supposed to be perfect, or no one ever promised you a rose garden. If I could have that conversation again, I might say, you want a divorce? In a flat but slightly curious tone. And if she had said, yes, you don't love me and living with you is hell, I might repeat, living with me is hell, in the same non-accusing flat tone. And if she said, yes, and you were such a con man, you just wanted me to make babies to please your mother, I might say, you feel I'm conning you. And if she said, yes, and you don't appreciate anything I do, I might say, well, you keep a beautiful home, you are a wonderful mother, you are a good person. I'm not sure, given her impatient anger, that I could have gotten all 3 sentences out, but I would try. But I didn't know Secret 9 then. I thought that life was about content. I didn't know that life is about feelings. I didn't know that the best friend is a good listener. When someone is speaking to me about a problem, I've learned that the best way to help is not to make suggestions or to react, but to actively listen. As someone put it, don't just say something, sit there. Obviously, I like to use 3 and 3, but I can't do that in all circumstances. So what's the best thing I can do for someone who just told me about a problem or how they are feeling? The best thing I can do for them is to repeat the last part of what they said and wait. This lets them know they are being heard. They may then discover something they didn't know they felt. By staying with their last thought, the next thought will come, and it might be a new thought for them. I am helping them on their journey. It is the rare person who will agree to a 3 and 3 while they are inviting me to an argument. But I have learned that even if the other person has objectified me as the problem, part of them will be grateful that I listened and repeated where possible while they attacked. Secret 10. I said I wanted a divorce. What do you have to say about that? In the imaginary conversation with my wife, which I wish I had had, after I had used Secret 9 and listened and repeated, she would hopefully have found some comfort in the fact that I was not rebutting and not counterattacking, but was curious to know how she was feeling. But before long, I believe she would have gotten back to her agenda, maybe this time with a little less anger. I said I want a divorce. What do you have to say about that? And here in my imaginary conversation, I would not have used my mother's great skill at saying something mean. I would not have said, "Why does your second sentence matter in light of the first?" I would have used Secret 10. I have the right to tell another person I will think about it. This gives me power and wisdom. At least I hope it does. We are humans and we are social animals. Other people frequently try to exert their power over us. Sometimes they throw us verbal hand grenades. I don't have to catch these hand grenades. I am allowed to say, "I will think about it." Hearing this can make a passive-aggressive person very mad, because a lot of times their opening question is really an excuse to get into a fight, an invitation to get into a fight, which instinctively they feel will help them somehow. Maybe as it used to be for me, it will feel like their old home where their parents used to fight. Or maybe as it used to be for me, it is the only way that their shadow self will let them get attention, since they feel so unlovable. Once the person who comes to me looking for a fight, but who deep down wants to be cared about peacefully, realizes that I am strong enough to avoid the fight without rejecting her, then she will like me better. I will have broken, if only for a minute, the cycle of confrontation that has dominated so many of her relationships. And there will be an opportunity for communication. I will feel a new sense of power because I will have stopped the cycle of violence from my family of origin with the light of a great truth. That great truth is, underneath anger is a feeling of helplessness. When I am angry, I use this truth on myself. When Eve was unloading her insults on me and I was able to say, "You are making me furious," I was feeling great because my anger wasn't controlling me. And I think for myself it was important to make that statement to her publicly and out loud and calmly, because the public act sort of graduated me from my old hand grenade catching and retossing. But suppose I had known about triage. Maybe I wouldn't even have said that to her. Maybe I would have quietly, without any response, moved away and taken care of myself and analyzed the situation. Okay, I'm feeling angry. I would like to return her violence. What am I feeling helpless about? I'm feeling helpless that this person who is supposed to be appreciating my loving, patient parenthood and who is supposed to be praising me for earning money and providing a home is instead attacking me. I'm scared because she is threatening to take away the most valuable thing I have in the universe, which is living with my child. And then I could have had empathy for myself. This hurts. I need someone to share this pain with me. I would not only have owned my anger, but also gone deeper and figured out the helpless feeling underneath it. Now one of the first things I say to someone who is angry, either at me or something else, is, "I don't blame you for feeling angry. You're in a tough situation." This hopefully coaxes them to go through what I wish I had been able to coax myself to go through with Eve. And I could have said to Eve, "I will think about it," which would have been better than, "You never even tried." Secret 11. I don't have to judge and act fast. I can tell myself I will think about it. What will I do today? I want to ride my bike. I want to see my friend. I want to write my story. I want to soak in the bathtub. I want to play music. I want to watch a football game. I should tidy my room. I want to make a movie. I want to find some of my childhood friends. I need to do laundry. I want to organize my grandfather's papers. I want to share my secrets with the world. Kind of a silly thought since I learned them from the world. I want to organize my father's papers. I want to walk uphill. I want to make some canine friends happy by taking them out to sniff the world. Oh no. What should I do? I've got to decide now. I can't take this indecision. Suppose somebody asks me, "What are you going to do today?" I have to have a quick answer or I will look foolish. Maybe I am foolish. Or suppose I ask myself, "What am I going to do today?" I won't have an answer. I won't know. I will feel foolish. How could it be that even I don't know what I'm going to do today? I will feel empty. I will find chocolate immediately to try to lessen my anxiety. When I have thoughts like this, I try to pick a small must-do job like changing the kitty litter or putting the garbage out, because I now know Secret 10. I have the right to tell myself, I will think about it. I can tell myself that I don't even know the answer yet, but I'm not going to beat myself up over it. It's okay to have conflicting feelings, and it's okay to not be able to figure out my feelings and plans. I can bear to do this, but barely, because it is one of the few secrets that I have to practice alone, and I am a Labrador. Secret 12. Do not hit a child. Do not hit yourself. Do not hit your child. When you hit your child, you hit yourself. When you hit your child, you are usually feeling like you are the victim, because underneath anger is a feeling of helplessness, often hidden. I can't believe you would disgrace me by refusing to go to your friend's birthday party, you say out loud. Inside you are saying, that disgraces me because I want your friend's family to like us, and I don't want our neighbors to know that you aren't a perfect little specimen. How could you do this to me? Whack! Whack! And how dare you talk back to me, you say out loud. Inside you are saying, if this child talks back to me, that means there is no order in the family, and thus I am a failure as a parent. Whack! Whack! How dare you say something mean to me, you say out loud. Inside you are saying, I gave birth to you. I sacrificed for you. I have become fat because I take care of you instead of exercising, and you don't appreciate it. Instead, you insult me. I must be a failure. You never learned that it is natural and healthy for your child to have conflicting feelings and express them, and to be mad at you and love you at the same time. And it's even healthier for your child to be able to express these feelings without fear of retribution. Whack! Whack! How could you say you don't want to visit Grandma, you say out loud. Inside you are saying, my own mother deserves respect. If I can get my own mother to be nice to my little girl, I will know that my own mother didn't mean the bad things she did to me. I need to honor my mother, and I need my daughter to pay homage to my mother. Otherwise, I am a failure, and my own mother is a failure. Whack! 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 How could this little person be doing this to me? This little person is doing something terrible to me. She must be bad. It will help her and teach her if I hit her. When you hit a child, when you hit your child, he internalizes that he is bad. You can look that up. You don't want your child to internalize that he is bad. And if you're human, after you hit him, you will feel guilty and overcompensate by being extra nice. I hit you for your own good. Here's a cookie. He will distrust this kindness. He will lose his sense of peace. How can the universe be friendly if his own personal universe, you, is violent? Use the timeout chair. Use the timeout chair on the child, and you will be using it for yourself. When you put her on the timeout chair, you are giving her and yourself a space in which you can avoid violence. A timeout chair can be anywhere. You don't need an actual chair. You hit me in the face. You are having a 5-minute timeout. Sit right there. Yes, right here on the sidewalk. Don't move. In my house, as the children got older, I would give them my watch to hold. Here, you are sitting here for 5 minutes until this beeps. Bring it to me when it beeps. I was using the timer on my watch to measure timeout penalties long before I was using it to measure 3 and 3s. In fact, I knew how to be gentle with my children before I knew how to be gentle with myself. And guess what? Ever heard of the First Amendment? The child is allowed to talk and complain on the timeout chair, but no reading, no cell phones, no Game Boy, no iPhone. Once I was driving somewhere with the kids, and one of my little angels was doing something completely unacceptable, throwing things out the window. I stopped the car, opened the back door, pulled him out of the car, and sat him on the side of the road. Sit right there, I shouted, bristling with anger. Don't move. I stood by the car and took advantage of the 5 minutes of free time to clean up the trunk, not to mention cool down. When his time was up, he had served his time and was happily brought back into civilization without condemnation. He had served his time. I too had had my separation time. I had not hit him. I had not hurt him. I did not have to feel guilty. The flush of fury was expressed and contained. I think that without the timeout chair, I would have been a child hitter. I put a dent in some drywall with my shoe once, but I never hit a child. Especially don't hit a child in rage. If you're committed to hitting your child, do it formally. You lied about kicking the girls with your friend Ricky at the train station today, so I'm going to spank you 10 times. This is what my father said to me once. He was not a rageaholic like my mother. He was temperate, not abash and lavish like my mother. It was gentle, it was controlled, it was contained, it wasn't too bad. Maybe it wasn't bad at all. Maybe you grew up in a family where you were spanked nicely like this, and thus you think it's all right to hit a child because you've never seen it done in anger. Secret 13. I write down my dreams when I remember them, especially the bad ones. Somehow, like magic, this takes away some of their bad power. When I don't do this, the bad dream with its bad mood comes back at bedtime, just as I am lying down and closing my eyes. Secret 14. If you have more than one child, don't interfere in their power struggles unless one of them is actually being hurt. Don't let them go nuclear by bringing you into the dispute. They will work it out. Getting involved will change the balance of power. Stay out of the sovereign country of siblinghood. Criticizing the older one or publicly sympathizing with the younger one will only increase the resentment that the older one has for the younger one, and the older one will end up treating the younger sibling worse. This will probably not be a conscious reaction of the older one, but it will happen nonetheless. The older one may stop helping the younger one, stop giving her attention, or exclude her from his play. He may take away something he was freely giving before, all because you thought it was in their interest to intervene. If you must intervene, do not give attention to the aggressor. Children subconsciously want the precious currency of the parent's attention, even if it is bad attention. Let the aggressor learn that hurting her sibling will not bring attention to the hurter. Your care for the older one is the model that she, the older one, will follow, and she will also be gentle to the younger sibling. Learn to shout back cheerfully when one of them is trying to call in a parental airstrike. I know you two can work it out. This is hard to do because we need to be needed, and we like to think our great talents are needed to save the day. I never had any idea about this secret until I read a book called How to Talk So Kids Will Listen and Listen So Kids Will Talk by Adele Faber and Elaine Maslish. This secret is somehow related to the idea of catching someone doing something good. Lisa, that was fabulous what you were doing. You were reading to little Emily just the way I like to read to you. Secret 15. Hear the silent tapes. I remember when I first heard my silent tapes clearly. I was walking across the kitchen to get something from a drawer, and I heard inside my head, "You should have done this a long time ago. Why didn't you do this earlier? What's wrong with you?" I stopped and said, "Who are you?" Since then, I have tried to listen to my silent tapes and to broadcast my silent tapes, like I'm doing to you now, even though I can't see you. This takes away their power. Some of my silent tapes are me talking to me. A better term would be me zapping me. Some of them are me speaking to the silent universe or to people who are in my life. Here are some of my silent tapes of me zapping me. You should have done this a long time ago. Why didn't you do this earlier? What's wrong with you? Why have you wasted your life up until now? Why did you let your child down by... You have accomplished nothing. Why can't you read this list without making mistakes? Why don't you have more money? Why don't you have more friends? You've missed so many opportunities. Here are some of the silent tapes of me speaking to the silent universe or to people who are in my life. Who's supposed to be taking care of me? Why isn't anyone taking care of me? Why aren't you taking care of me? I can't believe I'm being treated so terribly. I can't believe I'm being treated so terribly by you. I'm too afraid to say what I'm afraid of. If I preach to the world, maybe when I die, I won't just disappear. I am too embarrassed to admit that I need other people. I need to blame. I need to blame someone. I might as well blame you. I'm not nearly as good as he is. My loneliness is someone else's fault. I'm going to lose my share. Someone is stealing my share. I did something bad. I forgot to do something crucial. My activities are going to prevent my death. He who whines the most lives the longest. Someday, I will find myself, and boy, will I be disappointed. Thank you for sharing these with me.